Hey everybody, how are you? I'm Yellow. I'm a video guy. I make a bunch of videos here at Roblox. We got a couple people in chat. Unknown Dev, Chicken Muncher, what a name. Klon, Bacchanarog, Burra, Dark Angel, hello. And yes, you will be able to rewatch the live stream. It'll be uploaded to YouTube as a VOD. So won't have to worry about that. Oh man, today we are going to be talking about world building. And to do that, we're going to have a principal artist here at Roblox. He has worked in the game industry for a very, very long time, 16 years, and 2.5 of those have been here at Roblox. He has a really fun name. it's one of his most favorite things about his Roblox avatar. So I'm going to bring him in, and we're going to start chatting to him about world building and environment art. All right, here you go. Get ready. Welcome.
Ahoy! Hello. I'm
SCHLEEMPH.
It's me, SCHLEEMPH, everybody.
I like how you have the double E, so you really it forces you to pronounce like the E, like the SCHLEEMPH.
It's very SCHLEEMPhy, that's for sure. Yes.
So do you want me to call you SCHLEEMPH, or do you have another name you want to go by for the stream? How do you want me to call?
I'll respond to SCHLEEMPH. My real name is Adam, so feel free to call me Adam.
Adam. All right, Adam. Well, I'm Dux. I'm definitely only a Roblox avatar, ever, all the time. So, Adam, just real quick, could you just talk to us what world building is conceptually? People might think they know what it is. It sounds like you're just building a world, but what does that mean to you? What does that mean to an environment artist in a professional context?
Yeah, great question. Thanks, Dux, for the introduction. So world building is kind of an all-encompassing term that's going to include the process of creating environment art, textures, props, terrain, all sorts of other things to create a fully realized world with. It's going to extend just outside of things like, meshes and parts and constructing the physical world and go all the way out into the skies. It's going to include things like VFX, lighting, and even a little bit of level design and game design. Just kind of it's a kind of an umbrella term that's going to include all of those things. That is kind of altogether a cross-disciplinary group of various skills that all come together to construct worlds.
So if they're all cross-disciplinary, there's a bunch of moving parts. The TLDR is why do you care? What do you focus on? There's so many things that you can choose to try to emphasize, but what's the TLDR, the takeaway of world building? Cool. Why should I think about that for my experience and stuff I want to make?
Yeah, world building is, in my view, kind of the crucial cornerstone of the experience itself. When a user joins a game or joins your experience, of course, they come in oftentimes with their own avatar. That's a form of their personal self-expression. But bringing people into our worlds and doing world building is the thing that helps you kind of take your players' avatars, invites them into your experience and makes them immerse themselves in the world, in the experience, and deepens the gameplay and deepens the experience.
So it just makes it more fun, more enjoyable, immersive. It makes it makes you feel things. Gets the brain chemicals going.
Yeah, it's the way of creating places that invites users in, that makes it places that they want to be.
Got it. Okay, so now earlier you mentioned off a whole bunch of things that go into world building. We're going to be talking about a couple of those on stream. Let me pull them up for you. There's a lot. Let's see. There are 5 that we're going to be talking about today. Parts, terrain, materials, meshes, and lighting. Can you give us a quick how are these going to intersect together? What's your roadmap for today?
Yeah, so those 5 things are kind of the high-level points. Of course, each one of those topics is going to cover a number of smaller topics, but they're listed kind of in order: parts, terrain, materials, meshes, and lighting. Parts are sort of the core fundamental building block inside of Roblox Studio that we use to construct the world with and construct a ton of objects with. They are containers for various objects that we use to make game design with. Or even attach things like decals. So it's a kind of our basic, most elementary part of building parts. Terrain is a voxel-based, like a voxel mesh system that allows us to bring in a different kind of 3D form that is accompanied with the terrain editor.
Hmm.
Terrain inside Roblox lets us effectively sort of sculpt out a world and use and create organic forms to help us tell a story and bring the user through an experience. Materials are represented by basically the textures that cover every object in the world, and we can use built-in materials that are free and are available as soon as you
Free.
load up
We love
Roblox
free.
Studio. Exactly. Additionally, there's a ton of free custom materials that we can bring in to modify our world, overwrite the existing ones, or introduce different types of materials. So we'll cover some of that. Then we'll jump into meshes, which are very similar to parts, but they're a little bit more sophisticated. They're kind of like a super part, I guess, if you will, but they're built outside of Studio and applications like Blender. And it's basically a way to kind of create any shape and any silhouette in any form factor that you can imagine. It can be done with meshes. I like to use meshes where parts kind of don't have enough power, when you need a little bit more
A little more
horsepower.
oomph.
Exactly.
All right.
And then lighting.
Of course, light. Everybody goes nuts for lighting.
We love lighting. Lighting is the glue that brings it all together. That's how we're going to illuminate the world. We're going to talk a little bit about lighting and atmosphere and sort of just how to put the finishing touch on your visuals to unify the scene.
Awesome. All right, that is a lot. So we have about an hour and a half to cover all of these things. Chat, good to see you guys interacting, good to reading. Before we start off, just let's see if I can get one quick question. If anybody has a quick question before we start for Adam or world building in general, let's see if we can answer something real quick before we dive in.
Yeah, I'm here to answer all of your most engaging schleemphs.
Is that I didn't know you could use sleep and that type of sentence structure.
Schleemph is a catch-all term. You can use it for anything.
Perfect. All right, we're here to catch your sleeps. You're silly. All right. Okay. Well, while they're munching on some questions, let's get started. And then when we see one, we have some mods in chat who can highlight it and bubble it up. And then maybe we could take a quick pit stop during what we have planned to see if we can answer some of the questions. And then don't worry, if we don't get to your question, if you have one, there will be a structured Q&A section at the very end where it's all questions. The whole point is just to answer all of them there. So, all right, let's switch on over so we can actually see a bit of your screen. And away we go. So, yeah. Part one, parts. How are we going to talk about parts today, Adam?
Okay, thanks, Dux. First section, we're going to talk about parts. We're looking at a scene here that is constructed entirely out of parts. And basically, we wanted to get something thrown together to sort of just to keep things moving along efficiently. And so we built out this scene here that represents kind of a modern version of an old game made back in the 80s called Frogger.
Got it.
It was a game that was around when I was a little kid. It's been reinvented a few times. If you've got into mobile gaming, you might have played it as called Crossy Road, where a chicken crosses a road. When I was a little kid, it was called Frogger, and it was a frog crossing an obstacle course.
Yeah.
And something, it's a game type I think a lot of our Roblox users are familiar with. So I thought it would make a good example here as just a very simple, straightforward way to create a simple game design that we can apply art to in an understandable way that sort of mirrors a real professional workflow.
Perfect. Hey, speaking of simple, we got our first question. It's a great question that summarizes the previous section. It's which of these 5 things of the parts, materials, meshes, which of these 5 things is the most important between parts, terrain, materials, meshes, and lighting?
That's tough to say because you can't really have one without the other. I would probably say parts are the most important thing. They are the core building block inside Roblox Studio. Their power is kind of unparalleled in terms of how you can build very quickly. And exactly. They're absolutely crucial, and they're the component that everything else is built on. But I'll answer the question with a follow-up here. My favorite part of the process has got to be materials. I absolutely love materials,
Mm.
textures, because I think that that's where you can really introduce the flavor to a world, because you can introduce so much style. You can make things look super high tech, or you can make it look like a Miyazaki anime. And a lot of that is done in the textures and the materials. So I think that that's where most of the expression comes through. But I think that the most important part probably is parts.
Hey, speaking of your love for materials, we're starting off talking about parts because, you are saying technically it's probably the most important because of how foundational it is. But
Mhm.
do you have for all the materials, is there like a material, like fancy version of this, like that we're going to eventually get to?
Oh, I'm glad you asked. Yes. So, just real quick here, this is what we like to call a blockout or a gray box or a mass out. Those three terms are used kind of interchangeably for like a super primitive version of your game design. And well, just to show exactly what that does, I'm going to run this so you can see what's going on here. This might look familiar to Crossy Road or Frogger. These are logs going through a river. We want to jump over the river to get to the safe spots. And at the end, there's a traffic puzzle. Got to get through the traffic without getting run over. And if you fall off the logs into the water, it warps you back to the start. And if you get hit by a car, it warps you back to the start. So that's kind of the fundamental layout and game design we're working with here. But as you see, it started off in this really primitive form made out of just blank parts. But we have a quick demonstration of what it might look like when we're done here.
Whoa!
So here we have the rig that
That's
represents Schleemph.
uh
And this is kind of a world that I built out that's bringing in custom materials. Here we're using the terrain system. We still have parts in the scene. Even in this finished scene, we're still using
hey, look at
parts
that. Never
and
too good for parts.
high resolution meshes. We've got those in there as well. And we've got a little set dressed village around to sort of give us a sense of place. And of course, Skybox brought in a custom skybox, special atmosphere colors. And here's a little asset pack that we can point all of our users to as well
Oh, what's
if they
that?
want to get a sense.
Point all
Yeah,
of our viewers to as well. Hey, Mod, do we have a free asset pack to ping? Viewers, guess what? Chat, you can go and all of the things that Adam used to make this is available to you for free. Right, we like free.
we love
Free's
free
great.
things.
So this is totally achievable, attainable, possible. And Adam's going to show you exactly how to do it. So
Exactly.
this is what we're going to get to, right? Over by the end of the stream, this is what we're going to recreate starting from that part blocking.
That's right.
Phenomenal.
So pedal to the metal. We'll try to get there quick.
All right, wow, long journey. Okay, so part one, parts.
Yeah, let's just real quick kind of wrap up on parts here. So, this really only took a few minutes to put together. Parts are, like I said, the foundational building block inside of Roblox Studio. And if you go to the model tab at the top and you can turn on stud snapping, I like to set it to 1 or 0.5, a simple increment like that. And you can see it kind of snaps a little bit as we start moving it around. Oh, we're getting some notifications of some features that are online. So this is really this came together super fast, and it's very easy to build with parts. One of the most important workflows of building with parts is using Control D to duplicate a part in its exact position and then building the next thing with it. So that's just sort of a workflow thing that I wanted to call out. And Control D and then, moving and scaling is all I did to build out this whole scene. And as you can see, everything is made just of a simple block. The water even down below here, just a simple block. Nothing to it. There's no cylinders. The only outlier here is a wedge.
Only hard edges. Let's go.
Oh, yeah. And this is something you'll see a lot in current Roblox games. Things are very blocky. And we love to pay homage to the blocky art, but we like to also include a little bit more refined art too. So we're going to go through that today. Should we move on to talk about terrain?
I had a quick question during the parts block. And so if
yeah.
parts are foundational, they're easy to iterate. You can just scale, duplicate, really like kind of get the framework in of what you're wanting to do. How do you make sure that it's like the right size? Like that you're not making, a palace for ants or, a home for giants. Like, how do you make sure that the stuff that you're making actually, is the appropriate scale for Roblox avatars?
Dux, that's a great question. Scale is the right word for that. Yeah, one thing that can happen is if you're not careful and you're just sort of building using just your eye, you might be building things that are 500 studs by 500 studs by 500 studs. And that can be a very, very, very large world. And then you bring your avatar in who's only about 5 studs tall. And you realize that, oops, built everything to the wrong size. So one thing you can do is you can go to the Avatar tab in the top of Studio. And you go to the Rig Builder. And this has a bunch of pre-chosen options. And you can just select My Avatar. And it'll drop a version of your Roblox avatar into the world. And you can use that to visually compare how big everything ought to be. So here's SCHLEEMPH. And we can just kind of bring him up to the edge here. And we say, yeah, okay, that's a jumpable gap for SCHLEEMPH. But you really have to play test it to know for sure.
That looks like a gap SCHLEEMPH can jump. That's enough.
I think so. He's got stick bug head.
He's got what it takes.
And then over here, I like to, we wanted to ensure that it was about the size of a car. If this were a car, could SCHLEEMPH get in it? Yes, he could. So that's one way. You always want to check your scale. And, we got these bridges that are running overhead. We want to make sure that it was, more than enough clearance for a car to go underneath. But tall enough that the user couldn't just jump right up it. So yeah, scale is a super important thing. I'm glad you brought that up.
Fantastic. All right, so next up, you want to talk about terrain and built-in materials.
Yeah, so terrain is another super powerful tool in the Builder's toolbox, and you can find it on the Home tab. It's just to the right of your kind of move, scale, and rotate tools. When you open that up, it should appear on one side. You can redock it wherever you'd like. I like to have mine way over on the left here. So you can set up your sort of screen the way you like it. And we jump right into the Edit tab. And this just has a lot of powerful tools that we can get started right away by replacing these very primitive shapes with a little bit more sophisticated ones. Should we get started?
Yes. Teach us.
All right. Teach us!
Teach us. We want to know.
So if you turn on the select tool, you'll notice that it immediately creates like a selection box. So we're just going to use the select tool to sort of build out a shape that replaces the, let's do the safety islands first. Okay. So I'm just going to resize this so it's the same size as all the part blocks that I've put in. There's certain plugins available that make this easier too, but we're going to use all built-in stuff today. So we're just going to use vanilla Roblox Studio to accomplish all of today's tasks. But in the plugins tab, you can get all sorts of additional plugins to help your workflows, but we'll cover that some other time.
Makes sense.
Hey,
Adam.
First, yeah.
So Box Sharks has a question. We're talking about avatars for scale, right?
Yeah.
They say, aren't there like really, really big / small avatars people make? And they're wondering if the variance in custom avatars would still make for a reliable scale reference.
That's a great question. And yes, it does make a difference. But it really comes down to the game you are trying to design. So if you're working with another designer or you're the designer, that's a decision you might need to make early on, is if you're going to allow avatars in your game of any size, or if you're going to force them into a different standard size. That's sort of a design choice that the user or that the creator has to decide. And then you need to bring in avatar within the allowable range that you would permit and build to that scale. Which, some games you're going to say you can be the size of an ant or you can be the size of a giant. But of course, you would need to drop an ant in and a giant in to give you a sense of the variation. And you would need to build worlds that accommodate both. I like to typically build experiences that are about, the 5 to 7 stud height range, which is an average kind of rig size. It just creates a more reliable and consistent thing, but that's also the kind of game we're making here. Frogger, pretty straightforward kind of jump puzzle game. So we're just going to lock it down to standard sizes.
Sweet. All right. Hey, great question. Thanks for asking. So we're on Terrain Editor right now, which some people in chat have said scares them. So let's see if we can make it a little less scary.
Okay, yeah, perfect. Let's go. So notice in the select tool, we can have snap to voxels. And here, I'll resize this. And you see it's kind of like boop, 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 boop. And it's not letting me get between. I want to line it up to this edge. I'm just going to turn off snap to voxels and then eyeball this. So we'll get it about right there. I'm just trying to match my shapes as accurately as possible. All right, and then let's bring this down just a touch. A little touch-a-roo. There we go. Okay, so we have like an area defined now that represents what I want to turn into terrain. And I'm going to go to the fill tool. And I want this to be just a little grass island. So by default, it's grass. I'm going to stick with grass and press fill. Ta-da! Simple as that. Now I have some grass. And I'm gonna, with the fill tool still enabled, you can see that the selection tool is still kind of exactly the same. So I'm just gonna move it over to the next island and resize it to fit this one. And we'll just fill that one as well. There we go, love it. And just do it again for our last island of safety.
So, Adam, why didn't you just paint? Why are you doing fill instead?
Well, if we the draw tool would allow us to kind of stamp in various sizes.
Yeah.
We set it to add. I'm gonna undo that, and it creates, a large block.
Oh my gosh.
Right? That's too much. That's because this brush size is crazy. Let's take this down to something more reasonable. I think 6 by 6 is the default size, if I'm not mistaken. And it's ghosted. You can see it previewed there, and we can build like that. But what it does is it sort of has a few different behaviors that make it a little bit more difficult to kind of paint in the floor exactly where I want it, because these block out meshes are exactly where I want my land to be. So I just want that total control.
Got it.
Rather than having to kind of fly inside of it or set my snapping position to top. So this would be a valid way to get the same result like this.
Yeah.
But as you can see, like I don't exactly have a super steady hand.
Sure.
So I'm just sort of accommodating for my lack of steadiness by using the fill tool.
So there's a lot of different ways to do it,
space.
but filling is faster and easier in this particular use case.
For this particular way of doing it, yeah. Now, you can do it any way that you like best, and I would encourage everybody to experiment around with the terrain tool, because it's a lot of fun when you get the hang of it. And yeah, we'll just go ahead and finish blocking this in here. We're just going to go ahead and fill it all the way to the back. Boom.
Easy.
And fill up our top here. Now, this is an interesting thing, because we don't have the ability to fill in the shape of a wedge. We can only fill in this kind of cubic shape. So we're just going to stick with that for now. And now I've got these bridges that I want to replace with terrain too. Why terrain? Because it's very, very fast. I like the speed of getting a kind of a textured, high quality result very, very fast. But I also like that I have all these different sculpting tools to allow me to sort of adjust and modify the shape of it very easily inside of one singular system over time. So we're going to make this out of, we'll just use like the asphalt material, since this is going to be kind of like a stone thing. Or maybe we could use, we'll use cobblestone. And you can see that some materials, because we're just choosing different material types to fill, you notice this one has a much more faceted appearance. Some of them are smooth, like the grass, where you get like nice smooth edges over here. Oh, never mind. Make a liar out of me. Smoother edge over here. And some of them have built-in like faceted kind of qualities. So each material has maybe falls within a small group of unique sort of surface types. So let's just keep this train going and fill the rest in. I don't want to intrude too much into the river because I don't want to block the logs during gameplay.
Makes sense.
You don't want to stop the traffic by
watch out for SCHLEEMPH.
Exactly. Hang in there, little buddy. So this side we used terrain, and this side for now, just for the sake of showing different methods, I'll just leave this as a part. But actually, there's a little bit more nuance there. I'm gonna just set my studs to 20 very quickly. And move this up a little ways.
Oh, shoot.
So this is actually a complex CSG mesh. So if you go to the model tab, we're going to pivot back to parts if you don't mind for just a second, just to cover this real quick here. Under the solid modeling section, you can see I have separate and negate. That's because this is a union. If you look over in the Explorer, you can see that it's got this little cube and circle and a plus sign. That means there's multiple parts that have been combined to make this complex shape. So let's break that apart and look at it. Separate. How did I make that? Made it with three block parts right here, and then 2 block parts going this way. And these are set to negate, which makes them kind of make another part disappear. And then when you combine it and you press union, now I've got 3 holes where the blocks used to be.
Oh, neat.
And yeah, so you can make more complex shapes like this by using this tool. But we're going to go ahead and delete this one because we replaced that one with terrain.
With the terrain, yeah.
So we'll just go ahead and use this one as is by rebuilding that union. Okay, so this side is just going to be a single bridge on its own. Now let's move it back to where it was. And let's give it a new material. Let's say, because right now, by default, it's always going to be plastic. Let's just make this match the other side and call it cobblestone. And see how this has a color to it, and this one's kind of whitish?
Yeah.
That's because our part color here is set to institutional white. Also, we're using part color, so let's turn that on. Unions have a special property where after you create CSG unions, they use whatever color it was last assigned, unless you check on use part color, and that gives you the ability then to sort of change its brick color again to whatever you want. But we want to match this side, so let's find out what that is. In the terrain object in the Explorer, you can select that, and you'll notice there's a little drop down in properties called Materials Color. And we can see that cobblestone is 134, 134, 118. Let's just go ahead and select it. Control C to copy. And then let's select our union again and paste that into the color block here. So there. Now we have them the same color.
There you go. So now you can make your parts and your terrain look like they are in the same scene.
Exactly. All right, I forgot one side. We need to fill in this bottom edge here. So let's go back to our fill tool and fill in this last section. Oh gosh. Oh gosh. I hit the wrong button. Okay. There we go. And that's our terrain. So now we can go back in and remove some of the old blockout parts that we left behind because we don't need them anymore. That's these three. As shown here. Let's go ahead and just delete those. Now, it's nice to clean up your scene. You don't want to leave your kind of old blockout stuff behind if you don't have to, if you're not going to use it, because it's just a way to improve your performance. If there's things around inside the scene that aren't getting used, but they're still in there, at runtime, it's going to slow your game down just a little bit, but every little bit counts. So we want to always keep our scene nice and clean where possible. Now, I'm going to say, Adam, what do we do here? I don't even know how to deal with this. You had that ramp in there during the blockout. So what we need to do to kind of make the terrain match this aesthetic is we need to move over to our sculpt tool. Now, we have it by default set to add, but if you hold down the control button and paint, it does the opposite.
Oh, it automatically switches to subtract.
Exactly. So let's just keep our material set to grass and start subtracting a little bit of this shape here. Let's go ahead and increase that size just a touch and erase it until we get kind of a ramp made of terrain instead of the ramp made out of part. So now we're going to bring up from below. Can always be pretty delicate here.
And by alternating, if you're adding or subtracting, you're just choosing if you're... What was the hotkey again to switch between add and subtract without having to manually control? So you're just choosing between control clicking or regular clicking?
That's exactly right.
Well, that's convenient.
Okay, now we can get rid of all that stuff. We've got something that resembles our ramp. Now it doesn't take us, right? So what do we do there is we can get our smooth brush out. Let's increase this a little bit and turn that up all the way. And just smooth out our kind of unrefined sculpt there. All right, we're getting there now. Oh, we found another part to get rid of. Remember, we always want to clean up after ourselves, so let's get rid of that too. Okay, now we get something that's a little bit more appropriate. And then I want to switch over to the paint tool, which allows us to choose different materials. Let's go ahead and just switch to asphalt, and we can paint some asphalt up here. And this is where our little village road will be. And we can even have the asphalt carry over the top of our bridge to imply that maybe there's kind of a path that leads around there. Now we'll clean all this up later and refine it. We're just getting the broad strokes in right now. But kind of wanted to quickly demo all of the various tools.
So Adam, when right now, you know, you're taking your time, you're confident, you know where you're going. You know, like if somebody looked right now, like when you just put the concrete over the top, you know, it wasn't very refined, and you intentionally said you were just doing it to get it locked in. How do you like mentally let yourself be loose in this early stage and not get stressed about it looking perfect at every stage of the creation process?
Yeah, good question, Dux. I would say that partially it's just going to come from experience, and over time you'll learn a little bit more about where you're trying to go. That's definitely a part of it. And the other part is just generally, I like to work large to small. So we start out with that gray box or that blockout mesh, and we're working all these very blocky, large, simple forms. And over time, we refine them and refine them and refine them. And we get a little bit smaller and a little bit more complex at each layer. So this is just sort of like our second coat of paint. And we're going to go in later with a very small paintbrush at the very end. So it's just sort of working incrementally from biggest to big to medium large to medium small to tiny to done. You don't want to put in your final details at this stage because so much is still going to be in flux while we're sort of solving all the larger visual problems. So it's okay to definitely work at this scale right now, and just know that as we go forward, we'll whittle it down slowly. It's sort of like, think of it sort of like carving a block of wood into a sculpture, right? You chip away the large forms first, and you use the sandpaper at the very end. That's sort of what we're doing here.
Got it. Awesome.
Using wood carving as a metaphor here. Come on. Yeah. Come on, Grandpa. What kind of reference is that?
No, I'm tracking. It's good. Makes sense. Makes sense.
Here, we'll make one more little real grass here because we're going to have some grass up here too on top of our bridge.
And just get it in there because they're big shapes and we'll refine it later. Just get it in there.
Exactly. Yeah, this will probably all change. And now this side, of course, is a big union, a big part block. So this is we're not going to be able to have the same color changing ability here. So what do we do? I would say Control D to duplicate this one. And I'm just doing this because it's fast. I'm going to click separate and take it back apart and delete these three components. Now I have a block that's exactly the same size.
Hey, look at that.
I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit. And I'm going to change my increment back to 1. I had turned it to 20 for a reason earlier, just to get something out of the way. And then we can put this just on top. Not exactly.
Oh,
right?
You're so sneaky.
That's called Z fighting right there, and we don't like that. So we need to move it up just a little.
Stop fighting Z's.
Just a tiny, tiny, tiny bit so that they don't have the exact same Z surface. All right, so we got a little bit of a lift there, and we can change this to, let's just say, kind of like a dark gray, and we can change our material over to asphalt. Also, for those of you that are watching, maybe you're familiar with the platform already. You might have seen in here that I've got things like cardboard and carpet and ceramic tiles. See these new materials? If you weren't aware, we released a new batch of materials. So go ahead and enable that in the beta settings or check out the dev forum for more information. But we'll set this to asphalt for now, just so it matches this side. I'm using different colors, but we'll let them be different for just a little bit. And let's go ahead and move this over to just that rest.
Adam, QWERTY said about your process, your flow, that, this is good advice. I always spend so long detailing little parts of a map without first blocking the entire thing out, so it takes really long. So thanks for sharing that headspace and how you do
forgive
a project.
Yourself. Let yourself have some time to solve all the problems. We don't have to solve everything at once. In fact, it's a best practice to get the details in way at the end. Otherwise, you're going to redo your own work 10 times because you realize, oh, I need to make this bridge 10 studs taller because of reason X, Y, or Z. Oh no, I've already put so much detail on top. Oh, it's going to be so much work. So there's a lot of good reasons to hold off and do that stuff at the end. So that's sort of kind of the high level of terrain here. We can do just a little bit more. I want to do just a little bit more sculpting. I'm going to go in my sculpt brush here.
Yeah, so while you sculpt around, I'm going to see if I can crystallize the terrain section. We spent a little bit of time here, but a lot of the people in chat said that it's something they're really interested in, and they're most, it can be a little intimidating. And it sounds like that of the things that you've shown so far, the fill tool is a great option in your tool belt to create things depending on the circumstance. You don't have to draw everything. And you can, if you press Control and click, or just regular click, you can add or subtract when you're painting, and you use that to make a really nice little hill. And then with terrain, and this applies more generally, go for big shapes first and then smaller shapes. And one of the things that you like the most about terrain is that this lets you get some really organic shapes like you're doing now. So if you don't want to have super sharp edges, using the sculpt tool for terrain lets you kind of get some of these like natural curves and edges that you're showing us right now.
Exactly. Yeah, and I was just sort of like plumping up the edges here to make this bridge look like it was built a long time ago. It's been sitting here, and it's been rained on for a few hundred years, maybe decades. TBD. No, centuries. We want an old
definitely
bridge.
centuries.
Yeah, that's cool. Let's make an old geezer bridge here. And yeah, you can use the terrain tool to get yourself all sorts of like fine organic shapery that parts can't do. So this is just a way that, so now you see the difference. Parts give us very, very super hard, clean, blocky edges like that. And with terrain, we get a little bit more of a refined shape. So we love using terrain. And I know that it can be intimidating, but it's very powerful once you get the hang of it. And, just go in and like change your brush sizes and your strength amounts, just so like, because sometimes you can come in and be like, oh no, how do I undo that? Well, Control Z is your friend for one. But you can lower your strength quite a bit, so you can have more forgiving clicks, and also hold Control on occasion to shrink it back down. It's another way of like quickly undo something. But yeah, just a combination of add clicks and subtract clicks, you can get really quite an advanced shape without a ton of work. And as you see, as I build this out, it starts to become clear how faceted this material type is. Let's talk a little bit about that, because if I switch to something like, let's see, sandstone, and paint sandstone to it, you see how that faceting kind of goes away?
Oh, it like smooths it out.
Yeah, this is like a different material type. It's not as blocky looking, so it's definitely more smooth. And I think that's ultimately the one that we're probably going to apply to this at the end. So before I go any further with the sculpting, I want to move into materials, and that we'll do some overrides with materials, and then we can do a little bit more finishing on this bridge, a little bit more sculpting, while we bring together our vision for the art direction that we want to take this in.
Got it. So you've got your terrain set up, and these are all built-in, free out-of-the-box materials. But now we're going to use the custom materials that are also free, with the link up top that's pinned that you can get whenever you want, dear chat. Just to spruce this up a bit and get more in that artistic vision that you're wanting.
Yep, that's exactly right. Shall we move on to that?
Absolutely.
Okay, so yeah, the built-in materials, they're all represented over here. I don't think, all of the new materials that came in with the beta that I just mentioned, about the 8 new materials, none of those are available for terrain because they're all like architectural things, like rubber and cardboard, tiles. So things that aren't necessarily appropriate to be represented as terrain. But, maybe someday, who knows? I don't think I have the liberty to make those kinds of decisions, but nonetheless, I thought I'd touch on. Let's talk about materials. I'm going to close the terrain editor for just a moment, and I'm going to go to the Home tab again and click on Toolbox. So if you're following along in Studio, or if you're just in a project and you forget where you kept all those things, you can always go to the Creator Store and choose Models. Models is basically a collection or a group of objects. That can be, you can get all sorts of things in the Models tab outside of just like meshes or videos or fonts. So we're going to choose Models. And if you type in ITWB, it'll bring up all these things made by SCHLEEMPH.
Wow, that's like your special code.
Yeah,
hey, you want some
pack
SCHLEEMPH stuff? ITWB.
Exactly, yeah. The asset pack is going to be really useful for everybody watching the stream, but I've broken these out also into just sort of smaller sections, just for the purpose of this demonstration. Nonetheless, the asset pack here is always going to be available, and it includes everything, but I'm just going to pull these things in one at a time, starting right now with the ITWB material pack. And this is Intro to World Building. That's what ITWB stands for.
I was just thinking that. I was like, wait a minute, this seems familiar.
ITWB. So with a single click, that'll bring in this object here.
Wow.
And this has a bunch of different built-in materials that I've added to that pack. Now, you might look at some of these preview spheres and you'd be like, oh, geez, this sort of, I recognize this one. Limestone. Why is it showing me limestone? And this one here, grass, and this one here, sandstone. These are just white versions of the ones that already exist. Now, we have to do a little bit of setup when we bring in certain material packs. So, but before we go into that, I'll explain why this one on this side is a little different. See, you've got this tiling metal material. We have some green leaves and all these different things for making trees. We have this trim sheet over here and this tiling wood bark. These are all called surface appearances. So if you go into the folder, the top level folder is called Material Back OB Materials. That's a misnamed thing. It should be ITWB Materials.
Come on.
There's two parent folders here. One that says Material Variants, and that's these. And then there's another folder called Surface Appearance, and that's these ones. So if you open the Surface Appearance, these all have the name SA_. That's for Surface Appearance.
Surface Appearance.
And again, I mislabeled these. These should be ITWB. Please forgive me. But this is bark, ivy, and so forth. And each of these meshes, these are just little preview meshes. They each have children under them. That's where the surface appearance is. So surface appearance is a special kind of material choice that applies to meshes only. And it's basically a way for you to make custom textures, bring them into Roblox Studio, and they plug into these 4 slots under the Appearance tab on a surface appearance, and they become the children of meshes, and it allows the mesh to use UVs. But the material variants here, these are a little bit different. Here, I'll close that up. You see I have the preview spheres folder, and then all these 6 individual objects, which are called material variants. And these are the actual pieces of data that have the materials in them. And then these are just material spheres that are included to preview the various materials that we're going to look at.
Gotcha. So, Adam, just to make sure I'm tracking with you, the difference between the surface material and these material variants is that material variants change the visual appearance of like the default materials that come, out of the box with Roblox. But surface appearance utilizes 4 different textures.
Well, yes and no. The first statement you made is correct. Material variants do override the built-in materials.
Okay, I got half of it right.
And that is done by grabbing these objects, and we can Control-C, copy them, and we just, in the Explorer window, find Material Surface and Control-Shift-V, that's paste into. And then they become active in your scene. So that's just one little trick about getting material variants from the Creator Store, is they have to go into the Material Service section. Otherwise, they're not activated yet.
Got it. And by activating, you mean that but when you put them into the material service, it just maps to whatever existing base material they're overriding or customizing?
Exactly. And we'll dig into that a little bit more as soon as we open up our material manager. But I want to address the second part of that question. You just asked about surface appearance.
The surface appearance.
Yes. And you said these are objects that go underneath meshes that have 4 materials, and that is true. They do all have 4 texture maps in them, but so do material variants. They actually are interchangeable, and they can share or reuse the same texture maps.
Interesting.
It's just a difference of presentation and a little bit difference in setup. And when we get into meshes, we can talk a little bit more about how to use surface appearance. But I just wanted to call these out as being different.
And move them farther away, not to be confused
Don't
with.
Look at them.
no.
Look at those surface
We're
appearances.
gonna talk about material variants. Surface appearance could come later.
Exactly. So here, let's.
Okay, so you wanted to talk about material variants and the material manager.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about the nuance of getting this set up, because it's there's a few hoops you got to jump through in order to make use of custom materials. The tool that we use to make it all work, one is, of course, the Explorer, because we have to copy and paste those into our material service. That makes them sort of active in the data model.
Activate.
If you do not do that, then the material system doesn't know that those exist. So
Got
they
it.
have to be moved there. Maybe someday we improve the tool that it will detect those and automatically move those. That would be convenient, but as of right now, it's a step that the user must do.
So what was the shortcut for paste into? We got a comment in chat saying that knowing that shortcut saved at least one day. so Mon, maybe you could pin it.
Yep, paste into is Control-Shift-V rather than
So
Control-V.
got it. So you would just take the material variants you get from the asset store or wherever else, and then
Yep.
you Control Shift V into the material manager portion of the Explorer.
Exactly. That sort of like pastes it underneath whatever you have selected.
Easy peasy. Nice.
So now that we're in the material manager, by default, it'll just show us all of our default materials. But you'll see that there's this little icon here called variant. This little icon is sort of one sphere replacing another sphere. It's sort of a little icon that represents that this is an override or it can replace something. So let's start off by clicking the first one, grassy stones. And these are just made the 4 texture maps that I made in Substance Designer. You can use Photoshop, you could use Microsoft Paint, you can use all sorts of free tooling to make textures, whatever you like. My favorite is Substance Designer, and I'd love to teach a class on that later. But let's talk about what we're doing with these in Studio. So first, we just plug our texture maps in here. We don't use a metalness map. We just leave it at default metalness. And then we use a normal, a roughness, and a color map. Again, there's some technical details about what these mean. We won't touch on those today, but these are our 4 textures. We have a lot of documentation online, however, that I would love to point people to learn more about PBR textures. So if you just type that into search, I think you can learn a bit more. But we're going to talk about how to do these as overrides. So grassy stones material, I have set up in here with the base material asphalt. Now, what that does is that can override all of the asphalt in the scene. But I haven't done that yet. I have it currently disabled. And when you set it as an override, it'll override all of your terrain materials to be
With
this
that
new
one, with that
material
custom
variant.
one.
Exactly. So when we turn this on,
Oh shoot, look at that.
all of our asphalt just turned into these bricks. And it did it on this mesh too. So it overrides every instance of whatever material you have already in the scene. It'll be updated and overridden with this grassy stones. Now, one thing it also does is it's going to maintain the tint that you have applied to it. So if we go over here, let's use this as our first example. This just simple part that we applied the asphalt material to. Oh, I pressed Control Z.
Trigger happy.
You see, it's all black, and that's not what we want. So one thing that material variants don't do is they don't have any masks in them, like the built-ins do. So we have to set the material to white if we want it to just be using the color straight out of the box. If we start to add any different colors, we can tint it.
You'll
but
start
it tints the whole
tinting,
thing.
yeah.
And you can get all sorts of different results out here. So I like to author my color textures to just have color built into them, and I like to use them exactly as I painted them. So I set the color to institutional white or 255, 255, 255. That just is white.
Got it.
And that lets the color come through exactly in its untinted state.
So if you spend a lot of time making a custom texture and you have it just so, and you bring it into Studio and it doesn't look right, just make sure you set it to white.
Yep. And we have to go into our terrain object in the Explorer as well. Because you see over here, all of our cobblestones or our grassy stones, they're turning black here.
Yeah, because
So
that was what the other one was, right? Because wasn't it?
Exactly, because by default, every material, even the built-ins, have a color applied to them by default. And asphalt is set to 80, 84, 84, which is kind of a dark gray. So we can just crank that back up to pure white. And then we get just the default color back out of that, just like we got on the part. It's just a little bit different process. And we can also, we can go in and we can change any of our colors too. Like with our grass, we can have blue grass if that was what we want. So you can change all the different material colors over here as well.
Nice.
Now, we have a few more that we want to do overrides here as well. So we're just going to scroll through our list and we're going to find the next one, moss. That's this one. This is what I want it to look like. Now, again, this is a mesh, so I can tint the color of that mesh. But because I brought this texture in, I want it exactly like this. So I am going to just turn that mesh to white. And I'm also going to want to override my grass. So if I go to the moss section, and you can see that my base material here is grass, I'm overriding grass with it, but it's not turned on yet. So let's turn it on, see what happens. We see there's a change.
But it's
Now, if we
not
dig in really
blue
close,
or green?
we're noticing, why is that blue? Why is that almost black? It's because we're multiplying the color. Let's go back into our properties. Let's go to the terrain object again and open our material colors. Oh, we have this dark blue. So we're multiplying dark blue, the color, on top of this already kind of medium green. And that creates a very dark color when you mix them together. So once again, we want to set this to white. And there we go.
There you go.
We've got our nice, perfect green grass exactly the way we wanted it. Now we're going to do this to a few more materials, and we'll just kind of skip through those. We'll turn on cliff. The cliff material overrides limestone. So when we paint limestone down, we'll see this cliff material instead, which looks like this.
Now, Adam, this might be a silly question, but a lot of these, if you're making stuff, they could all kind of look the same. Like, hey, this is asphalt, this is granite, this is limestone, and you're just thinking rock, like, sure. If I'm making PBR textures and substance and I'm bringing this in, it doesn't really matter which one I replace, right? Because it's just going to look the way that I want. What considerations do you have when you replace existing ones? Because don't they have aren't they each special? Because Roblox is a simulation engine and it's not,
That's right. Yes. So all of the built-in materials, as they come in by default, do have physical properties associated with them, like friction and elasticity and weight, and things of this nature. So if you override a material in the material manager, what you end up doing, for example, the moss material is overriding grass. It's still going to have all the properties of grass, except it'll just have a different set of textures. Down here on stone wall, which I'm about to turn on, this is going to override sandstone. So this, even though this material is a stone wall, it will inherit the custom properties of sandstone. Now, but if you want, you can also adjust those too, and you can enter custom fields down here.
Got it.
But since we're going to stay focused on more of the art side of things, we're going to go ahead and not get too deep into physics on this one.
Got it. But basically, each of the materials has their own physics, and when you're designing, you should at least be aware that that's a thing, and you don't just pick willy-nilly, even though you know that you're just going to change what it looks like, because the underlying physics, unless you change them, will be constant.
That's exactly right. Yeah.
Amazing. Hey, we got a really good question in chat. This is a test for you, Adam. Is it possible? Would it be able to, you make some grass blue on one section of the map, and then green grass on the other section of the map, and have them both be grass, but yet be different colors?
You could, but one key thing to keep in mind is that while there is only one built-in material that will spawn grass blades, and that's the grass material. So I could, let's say, here, can we duplicate? Let's go down into, let's Control D, and we'll make another moss. I'm going to rename this one Moss 2. Okay, so now you see I've got Moss 2 over here, and its base material is set to grass. That's all great. Let's set it instead to be cracked lava, and override cracked lava. And then let's go into the terrain object. And so cracked lava is red. So we're going to get like a kind of a brown color when we paint this down. So just to demonstrate this, we'll open up the terrain editor. We'll go to the paint tool. We'll find cracked lava. There you are. And we'll paint some of that down. Now if we get in there, oh, would you look at that? We've got red lava. But it's not lava anymore. It's the texture of grass now. So you can have that, but as you notice, it doesn't spawn grass blades. So that's the one difference. And you can do this over and over. You could have the same material texture in every single slot, overriding a different material, but you would only get the blades on the one grass material.
So the answer is technically yes, but aesthetically no.
Yep, that seems like a safe statement. So we're going to go ahead and delete that. Remember, we get rid of our junk. We get rid of things that we don't need anymore. So we're going to remove that material and keep our workspace nice and tidy. Okay, let's see. We got the rest of these materials all set up and ready to go.
We're going to want to start thinking about meshes here soon.
Okay, can do. With one quick final step, I want to show the audience one more thing. We're going to open the terrain editor once more. And I'm just going to shrink my material manager down real tiny real quick. We're going to go ahead and use the select tool. And I am going to show one more feature of the fill tool. I want all of the cobblestone in my scene to become something else. I want to change anything that's painted down as cobblestone. I would like it to become sandstone. So remember when we painted this down, we were using the fill tool and we filled it all with cobblestone material, and it's got this kind of like faceted, blocky look. Well, I kind of want a different material, and I want to use my built-in special one. So I'm just going to select all the terrain in my map using the select tool. Go over to the fill tool again, and we'll go to the replace button. It changes into a different fill mode. And we'll say any source material, we're going to choose cobblestone. So anything that's cobblestone, let's replace it with sandstone. And I remember I've overridden sandstone to be this mossy rocks. So, okay, we've got it all selected. Replace cobblestone with sandstone and click replace. Boom, there we go. Now we've got a smooth material type. And we immediately preserved all of our painting. We preserved all of our sculpting, so we don't have to redo any of that work. That's a real easy, quick trick to sort of change your art style with a short notice. Say your art director or your co-designer comes by and says, I hate this material, I need to be something else. And you say, I already painted it, it's already done, I don't want to redo it. Quick way to get that change done, super fast.
That's
and again,
insane. It changes the vibe completely, instantly, and it was like minimal effort.
Exactly.
And I was using the fill tool.
That was the fill tool. The replace function of the fill tool.
All right, TLDR for terrain. All y'all were scared of terrain. Fill, replace, or I guess at the very least, just fill. And not, you don't have to sculpt everything. Between those two things,
now you can see.
Maybe you can be a bit more emboldened to give it another shot. That's crazy, Adam.
You know, there's one more thing that we forgot.
But wait, there's
water
more.
in. There's water. Okay, let's bring in some water. Remember, we want to have water to fall into. So we're going to use the fill tool there again. So let's just get our selection into the correct position. And rather than just fill with water, because that would replace everything with water, we're going to use the replace tool.
Can we see what fill would look like just to like have a reference?
Oh, yeah.
So we did do fill, and okay.
And then kind of creates a little bit of an artifact, and we have this paper thin island. That's not what we just want the air to be turned into water. And then it does kind of a little bit of an edit, making all the terrain exist on top of the water.
Wait. So if you look underwater, it's gone. It like cuts it off?
Yep. It turned everything into water.
Oh,
Big
wow.
old cube of water now. That's not. Actually, that's probably a little bit too large. Let's go ahead and make a more responsible shape. Let's be responsible.
Responsible builders at Roblox.
You remember, we don't want to have too much extra junk in the scene that we're not actually going to use because we pay for everything we built. So let's make it only as big as it needs to be.
Build it on a budget.
Okay, we're going to do replace tool. And where is the air material?
Is that top right? Or no?
Oh,
there it is.
wait. Darn it. It doesn't exist on the source material, so I can't replace air with water. I should have done the water first. Okay, so because that's not an option, we're just going to have to do this a little differently. We're just going to put the volume
pivot
exactly where we want the water and fill it all with water.
Oh man, that thing we weren't going to do, we're now doing.
Oh, well, now we can still accomplish the exact same goal, okay. But what we can't do is just do it in that one fell swoop by replacing all the air with water.
Okay, so we can still do it. It's just a little more cumbersome.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right, there's hope.
We'll just use the fill tool.
All right, do the fill tool. Okay.
So there we go. We can see our water is in. Oopsie daisy. And we'll do the same right. Oh. Scale it up, make it fit the shape. Fill her up. There we go. All right, we'll turn the fill tool off. You can see that the water has a little bit of something going on to it. There's actually a natural wave deformation to the surface of the water. So our old water, which is represented by this object here called water hazard, this guy right here, we're just going to turn that to be fully transparent so we don't see it anymore. That's that. Now, as you can see, we got a little bit of an artifact on this edge here. See, it's kind of done this little thing. That's because I did the creation in reverse. Maybe this is something that we make a change to in studio one day, but for right now, this is kind of how it works. We can go in here and just kind of try and smooth that out just a little bit. And we will ignore water. We don't want to change anything about the water. We just want our terrain to be a little bit more responsibly shaped. There. Happy little clouds.
Happy little water banks.
There you go. Look at that. That's a nice grass.
Very nice.
Forgive me. If you make video games, sometimes you're weird. It's okay.
You get caught in your creative moment. You're just completely immersed in your creative journey, and the real you just slips out.
We talked a little bit about terrain, talked about the built-in materials and the custom materials.
Meshes.
Let's talk about meshes, y'all. Let's talk about meshes.
We got just so you know, Adam, we got 30 minutes till structured Q&A. So we got to do meshes, and then ideally talking about meshes and parts and recreating meshes with parts. And then lighting is a very big feature as well. So we're gonna have to pick up the pace here a little bit. But we spent a lot of time on terrain, and that's okay because there was a lot of questions and
terrain
interest.
Rules.
Terrain's awesome.
Terrain's awesome. I love terrain, and you should too.
And you should too.
Okay, so we'll go into the meshes part where we've been building with blocks and building with terrain. Now I want to bring in some high fidelity meshes that I've hand authored in Blender, and I've used my hand authored textures that I made in Substance. And you can reuse these as well and dissect them. And also, I wrote a tutorial that just got posted on the dev forum about how to model in Blender for beginners, teaching what we call the box modeling method. So I'd encourage everyone to check that out if you're interested in learning how to model. I promise you, it's very, very easy to learn, and you can make anything out of a cube. But without any further ado, meshes. ITWB meshes is the next thing I'm going to drop in, and these are just a couple little set dressing meshes here. Let's take a close look at them and see what they're all about. What exactly do we have? All right, we have this adorable little village right here. Oh, and that just cute as heck. It's got little hanging flower boxes, little windows, little chimneys, puff, puff, puffaroo. And little stones at the bottom, kind of plastery-like materials on the walls, and very kind of finely crafted edges. Everything's just all tucked in, and everything's just so. So there's building number one. We've got 2 buildings and a tree. So
I like how you just drop these in. Like, hey, look at these like god tier assets. It's like, well, yeah, it's SCHLEEMPH.
Yeah, SCHLEEMPH's been doing it for a little bit.
SCHLEEMPH's been doing it for a while. We even got a comment. SCHLEEMPH is SCHLEEMPHing. Every
single one of these assets, though, over time, we're going to write tutorials on how you can learn how to do it. And we're on the dev forum, too. So if you have questions, post. We'll do our best to get you answers.
Yeah, we're finding the link to the box modeling dev forum post for you right here. All right. Mod. The mod has got it. Ping it away.
So, okay, we've got, those are our buildings. And then this here is a replica of those buildings because I actually want to jump straight into the difference between parts and meshes.
Yes.
This is my attempt at recreating the village meshes using only parts. So if we
wait, that's just parts. This one right here.
This is just parts.
That's only parts.
Just parts.
So we're saying, SCHLEEMPH's been doing this for a while, 16 years, God mode over here crushing it. But yet if you don't know, Blender or modeling, like this is just parts just in Roblox.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
That's
so you
insane.
Can do a lot with just parts. Yep. Even like these little complicated shapes here. This is just another union using the CSG modeling tools. You can get the door handle. Right, and it's just a sphere stuck onto a box. This one is just basically the same. There's nothing too much special to that. So you can recreate a lot of the same stuff. One of the nice things that we get though when we build with meshes is we get control over our UVs, and UVs are basically the 2D coordinates on the 3D object. What does that mean? It means I can choose which part of a texture I want to show on a mesh. So I'm going to drag my material sphere over here and just have it around for comparison. We'll kind of talk about what that means. So this here is the texture that I made in Substance, and this is what we call a trim sheet. It's just horizontal strips of different kinds of texture. So I've got like a ball bearing, a metal gutter, some rope, and some like a big broad piece of wood, a skinny piece of wood, and then slats. And you can see there's the slats. There's the riveted metal. Here's more of the riveted metal, making the rooftop line. Chimneys made out of the metal gutter and the rivets. So we get to point all of these different polygons that we made in Blender at different parts of the trim sheet texture. Even here, you see this, where I made like some end caps for end pieces of logs, because we want to use this part to make the long side of the refined wood, and we want to use this side to show that it came from a tree, you know? So you can see on the edge of all these pieces of wood, it looks like it was cut from a tree and then refined.
So
all of them have it.
So when you call these UV maps, that's not just techno jargon. Like literally that cube, it's literally a map of all the different aesthetic choices that you then choose where you apply what that looks like on whatever it is you're making. And that's something
Exactly
only
right.
meshes can do. That's kind of the superpower, one of them.
That's I think the most important part of meshes. Yep, is you get to choose what part of the texture shows on what polygon on axis U and axis V. You might know it as X and Y. X
That's
and Z.
hilarious. Wow. Look, a peek under the hood.
Yep, they
That's
call it
crazy.
UVs in 3D modeling. Why? Nobody knows. It's a mystery. Doesn't make any sense to me. I don't ask too many questions. That's just the name.
So we
But-
got a good question in chat. What is the resolution for these? Because they
these
look
are
amazing.
1024 by 1024 textures. Yep.
1024
Maximum resolution.
Okay,
Mhm.
the max.
Yep, and I think that the roughness and the normal map I might have down-resed to make them cheaper.
And
but
by
the
cheaper,
color
you mean
map
like
is
easier to run computationally, so the game doesn't lag as
cost
much.
less memory. Yeah,
Sure.
because you only have so much memory that you can use in a scene. So we try to we get our savings where we can.
Yeah, we're building on a budget.
That's right, always.
Delete your junk.
Let's
Down
do
res
one
your
more little
normals.
comparison here. You see how the edge of this log doesn't have that kind of face that shows that it's a piece of cut wood.
Yeah.
This is an example of something we wouldn't be able to achieve with meshes. Maybe if we made a decal, we could stick a decal on these. But it's just really cheap and efficient and easy to do this stuff really quickly using texture maps and UVs. So that's sort of some of the limitations of parts here. But this is a pretty close.
Yeah, I mean, you say
approximation
limitations of parts, but this looks absolutely insane. I feel
Yep,
like that
you can do it.
people would make this exact house using Blender and polygonal modeling, and you made it all using just parts. So like, I know people are really excited to, I want to learn Blender, I want to do 3D modeling, and it's really cool. But I feel like that, don't be too quick to ditch parts. You can do a lot with parts still.
No, I think the magic of building in Roblox Studio is building with both. I think that the strongest artists will probably make use of all the tools in the toolbox. Yeah, I like to try. I'm of course I come from the games industry where it's all meshes, and I've only been in Roblox for 2 years, so when I find an opportunity to use parts, I use them because they're very efficient and they're very useful, and they have just awesome properties, and it's really fun to build with them. But there's some things they can't do, and there's some things that they do better than meshes. They're super efficient, way more efficient than a mesh, so they run faster. But it's a give and take.
A little sneak preview. We're gonna be talking a lot more about parts and why parts are unique in physics streams later. This is art, and that's great. But we'll dive a lot more into the difference between parts and meshes and terrain in a future physics stream. Because Roblox is a simulation-first engine. If you haven't heard it yet, you'll hear it now. So,
Simulation first.
That's another topic for another time. But that's really cool to see that just how far you can push parts like to the max.
It was a
Bananas,
fun
dude.
experiment. It's really fun to try.
All right, we got 20
really
minutes.
quickly,
What do you want to
all right,
prioritize?
we're gonna go ahead and just set up a little village up here. Now I already have a bunch of like little props and stuff associated with it, so we can just grab that little feller, and we can move him around. Just Control D to make a copy, a duplicate in the exact same position, and you can just drag it into position. Now I've got this grouped up in a funky way, so it's gonna misbehave a tiny bit. But yeah, this is sort of the process. We can, oh gosh, keep hitting the wrong button there. Okay, and then we can grab our tree, Control D, and we can make a cute little tree area. Just make it feel a little homier, a little more lived in, the little village that you want to visit. And repeat this process over and over and over, and then next thing you know, you got a village. So we got two different buildings here, and I just want to kind of go over this one method of reusing one thing over and over to get variety. Is I built these meshes so that they're different on each side, so that I can Control D copy the same building over and over and over, and just place them right next to each other, and they'll feel like different places, even though they are the same mesh.
So sneaky, Adam.
Yeah, we need to save and be as efficient as we can when building, because we can only have so much content in a scene before we run out of memory. So we want to use the same stuff over and over. One other thing we can do is we can go in and sort of select the color properties and change those a little bit.
Oh,
maybe I
sick.
want to have a different paint color, or maybe I want to have something with a blue top. And make sure I get this selected correctly. There, and let's change this to be wood planks. So right away, totally unique building as far as the viewer is concerned. And we can just do that over and over and over.
And all you did was just change the colors using Roblox tooling.
That's exactly right. And did I make a huge mistake? Yes, I did. I'm going to go ahead and take this out of the
Pivot!
folder so that I can more effectively copy this this building around. And
What
do
was
this.
the mistake, Adam?
The mistake was that I copied around that tree a bunch of times inside of a group.
Oh, no.
And when you, so if I wanted to duplicate, it would be very hard to just select the whole building and not get 5
And not
trees
get a
and
million
copy
trees.
them.
Yeah.
So now I have that separated, and it's just the building in a couple barrels. Yay. And then you can even jam a couple of these together and make it look like kind of a compound building like this.
Yeah, just don't look too close. It's fine.
Yeah, so, look at that. It's an even bigger house. Oh, I just love these flowers. They're so dang cute. Okay.
Very cute.
And then, you know what? Let's not leave out our
Yeah,
parts
let's not leave
building.
out the parts.
Come on. We got Parts Bridge and Parts Bro over here. What's up, Parts Bro?
Parts,
Just
bro.
parting
Look
it
and
up over on the
fly.
Parts Bridge, you know what I'm saying? Oh, gosh.
It's a good looking part.
Butterfingers.
Good
Okay.
looking part house.
There we go. Here's our little village that's gonna give us a little obstacle course to jump over, and we got one more little thing that I'll insert in terms of parts here.
You know, there was a request to put a duck in the water. Just saying.
So when you get this this thing out of the toolbox, it's gonna say, "Hey, there's scripts in it. It might be malicious." These ones are not, but always be careful when you're pulling scripts down from the creator store. You want to verify that these are safe to use. Because there's a lot of there's all sorts of stuff out there, but the ones that we provide are guaranteed safe.
Guaranteed Roblox safe.
This is just the gameplay objects here, and basically what these do is this makes the log move left and right, and when it runs into these little kind of barely visible parts on the end, it resets the position to 0. Same with the little cart here. These are just this guy and this guy are the things that make it start over and over and over again, which no matter which way you're facing. And then this is the water part that if you touch it, it sends you back to the spawn. We're not going to use that. We're going to get rid of these volumes just for now. And we're going to go ahead and take the log, and we can start replacing our mass out objects or our gray box objects with these properly arted up objects. So we can do that by going in. We'll just take all of our hazards, which are here.
Easy.
And we're going to move those out of the way. And we're going to replace it with our updated ones.
All right,
Yeah.
Adam, just want
I
to
like
flag. We got 15 minutes till Q&A, and we haven't gotten to lighting yet. So we'll wanna get to lighting lickety splickety.
All right. We're just going to put some traffic on this road and we'll move on. And you guys are going to love this cute little car. Look at this cool car. It's so cool. Look at it. Look how awesome it is. I love this thing. I think that the version in the asset pack has a different texture on it, so they'll be just a tiny bit different from one another, but nonetheless. Oh, nevertheless.
They're pretty cute.
Okay. So there we have it. Let's move into it. Yeah. And you know what? Just to get done. We can't leave it undone like that. We can't leave it undone like that. Okay. Lighting. Let's talk about lighting. So one last thing to get us over this last hump here is I'm actually going to bring in the entire asset pack now. And this is what it'll look like when you bring it into your space. And this is the one I recommend everybody grab because this has all of our meshes, all the materials, and it has the game design objects. So you can build your version of Frog. Now, one thing that's going to be important to know, and I'll just note this for the stream, is that you want to place this right on 0, 0, 0, because some of the scripting that's built into these relies on this object being centered in the scene. You can send me messages on the dev forum if that confuses you, and we can sort that out. But for this stream, we're not going to touch on it. One thing, let's take a look at the intro to world building assets that's going to appear in the Explorer here. We've got building A, we've got building B, gameplay objects, material pack. Oh, what's this one? Sky and atmosphere. This is just a folder. This is something that's only going to exist in the asset pack and represented as a folder because it's not an object. It's not a 3D object that you'll be able to see in 3D space. So the sky atmosphere folder is going to have basically an atmosphere, a skybox, some bloom settings, color correction, depth of field, and things like this. And the way that we can make use of these is just to select them and copy them. And we'll just shrink our workspace. We'll open the lighting object in the Explorer. We'll select the things that exist there and delete them. So we're going to replace them again with Control-Shift-V, and we're going to paste those right in. You can see it sort of changes the look and feel. So
all right, that's it. You're done.
That's it. Yeah, custom skybox. All right, this is something I made in Substance Designer as well. And it's just some fluffy clouds that give you that kind of Miyazaki effect. And the rest are just tweaks and tunes to existing parts of the lighting system.
Hey, while you're talking about the tweaks and tunes, Mod, there's a dev forum article and a YouTube video about how to make a custom skybox. Would you be able to post that for us? Skyboxes are a really great way to quickly change the vibe. We have a really good, really quick tutorial on how to do that.
Yeah. So let's just jump right into it. Let's make some changes to the kind of general lighting tab here. Let's go ahead and bump up our ambient color here. I like to use something maybe a little bit more brown and less kind of gray to give a little bit more warmth to the ambient dark areas. So any areas that's kind of in shadow will inherit a little bit of that warm color instead of the default, which is like a little blacker. Right? See a little before and after. I'm going to bring down the brightness just a little bit to 2.5. So this is going to represent the brightness of the sun. Environment diffuse scale and specular diffuse scale, we're going to leave at 1. And that just helps our PBR system react properly. But sometimes if you want, you can change these values to sort of get a little bit of tuning on how much bounce of light you want and how much the diffuse color of the environment is reflected back on your materials. And same with the specular scale. This will sort of reduce the reflectiveness of the scene. But we're going to keep those both at 1 because that's when our systems work best. We're going to change our technology from shadow map to future. And that's just going to give us a little bit more better compatibility with kind of all the latest and greatest systems in the future lighting system. We'll leave our global shadows on, of course, and we will change our outdoor ambient, which will be a little bit brighter than the ambient set for the other, which would give us a different result when we're sort of not able to see the sky. So under the bridge, it will be a little dark. And then I like to have our shadows be really crispy. See the crispness of that shadow line right there? Get a little bit of a fall off gradient. I'm just going to change that to 0.05. It's just a tiny little bit sharper, gives us a little more crispy shadows. So, and then, now I said I wasn't on stream going to endorse any plugins.
However,
I don't endorse it. I'm just going to use it. This one's called Set Sun, and I like it because you can point and just move the sun super easily. So I want the sun to be kind of maybe a little lower in the sky, like that. Just something dramatic. There we go. There we go. I like that sun. And then I'll turn Set Sun off. I do not endorse that.
it's just convenient and I use it a lot.
It's just convenient, okay? All right, so this atmosphere, basically this one's really simple. That's what sort of controls. You see this fog that's all along the horizon?
We love fog.
That's basically all we're setting in here. I gave it these two colors. This is kind of like a cream color, and it decays to be, you know, a little bit of a warm color. And that represents the differences that we see on the horizon here. And the density is set to 0.336, and we can make like super, super dense fog atmosphere and cloud out our whole level. You know, if you want to do a forest fire or something, you do that. Or in the offset just says how close to the camera it's going to start affecting the scene. The skybox, by default, there's one in there. So if you paste this one in, it'll just overwrite the existing one. And it'll give us this cool fluffy sky. Again, we can easily just delete it. And this is sort of what the default sky looks like. But we'll use this one. Now, one thing I also like to do, even when I have like a very cartoony kind of skybox like this, is I like to go into the workspace to the terrain object again, because we can add something to this. This is where we can add our clouds. So you just go to terrain and type the word clouds, and that puts clouds in the sky. Now,
Just
they don't
like
match
that.
perfectly, but you know, it gives you a little bit of something to work with. And if you select it, you can sort of change. Well, do we want a little bit of cloud cover or a whole lot of cloud cover? And it's just these little sliders. You can tune it to what you like. And I think I might get dense clouds, but very few of them. And I try to make it so it blends in with my background a little bit. So I'm going to take these down from white to be just a little bit towards more blue. And desaturate them a tiny bit. So you see it on the edges. It just kind of blends to the background a tiny bit better. So that's how I bring in some clouds. Let's go back to that lighting drop down. So we looked at the sky. I enabled the bloom. I set it to 1.5 intensity. The size is as big as you can get because I really like a big bloom. And then the threshold is, these are just some kind of knobs and values that elude me. They're mysterious to me too. I don't know exactly what they do. So mess around with them.
You're not allowed to say that. Hold on.
It's true. Even people that have been doing this for a long time, we just, I don't know, I just turn the dials until it looks cool. Sometimes that's a workflow. Hate to say it, but it's true.
It's all about experimentation, right? It's all about
Exactly.
learning and pivoting and finding what works best.
I'm bringing in this color correction node too. I'm going to turn it on and off, on. And I'm only using it to kind of pump up the contrast just a little bit. But you can also use it to sort of tint the color of a scene if you want it to feel really like poison swamp feeling, or like icy, cold, frightening Arctic, or surface of Mars. You can do that all in the tint color. You can even crank up your saturation a little bit too. Like that. If you want to get really like kind of stylish with it, you can go totally crazy. I think we see this a lot in a lot of games, but I like to pull it back a little bit more so. Not necessarily to zero, maybe, you know, maybe just a little bit. Maybe just a little bit of punch, you know. A little bit of punch. Never hurt nobody. Feels pretty good, doesn't it?
That's a nice punch. I don't mind that punch.
Depth of field is what sort of makes the background get a little fuzzier the further away it is. And these are just some settings that I thought looked good. And of course, the sun rays, I like to have those on. They're most noticeable when you look at them through like the leaves of a tree or something, so, like that.
Oh, shoot.
So off, on. And it just creates this kind of cool little parallaxing effect when the sun's shining around an object.
Subsurface scattering.
What is this? Smooth plastic part, black.
Patooey.
Nope. Incorrect.
How did this get through?
Asphalt set to white. There.
Ah, oof. That was almost game breaking.
Now I'm just gonna press the run button and see if my my game even works, or did I? Yeah, I did something wrong there for sure. As you can see, this log is colliding with my terrain right there. So I would need to go in and fix that up and smooth that out so it works a little bit better. Also, I think there we go.
There it is. Took a minute. Chugging right along.
Yep, and you see this one got caught on a little piece of terrain over here too, so I would need to get that done. But you can see that the logs are colliding with the resetter and going back to their original position. And if you wanted to, like when you're messing around with these logs and making up some puzzles, like you can go into them, select it in the 3D viewport and open up the log group. And this is its kind of setup. And it looks maybe a little complex, but we're going to do a lot of writing and teaching on how to use this stuff. It's pretty straightforward. You can open the prismatic constraint the prismatic constraint is a physical constraint that's what actually makes this thing move. And it's represented in 3D by this little object here, prismatic constraint. And down here, its velocity is 20. You can change these values super easy to be like 100. So this will be a really fast log. Let's show exactly what that does. Oh, but first, you know, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to move it over so it doesn't collide. Bad game developer. Bad game developer. Fix the bug. All right, you see that log is now really hustling along.
Go log,
so you can
go!
do a lot of, you can do some game design here and make modifications to the puzzle by increasing the speed of these logs or the speed of traffic. Another thing you could do would be to, for example, we could go in and select our log and shrink it down a lot and make 2 of them and maybe make a bunch of them.
Oh my gosh.
You get...
Hold on. Let's not get crazy.
And now
dude.
we have kind of a different type of a puzzle. Like as you go up in levels, you
Hard
can make
mode,
it harder
dude.
and harder.
No,
and
for
harder
sure,
and
for
harder.
sure.
You could do this with the traffic too.
That was so quick.
Yeah, really easy, super fast iteration. And you remember when I was saying it has to be right along 0? Where is our spawn point? It's right here. We forgot to talk about spawning. When you make a new map, you get one of these put in it when you make a base plate. And one of the scripts on the water, if you touch the water, it sends you back to the start. I'm actually going to do a quick play test now that I think we kind of covered all of our major topics and show you kind of how it all works. I am not going to be able to jump on it. That's too fast. But here's what happens when you jump in the water. Oh, my script is broken. Nothing happens.
You get beaten to death by logs.
Yeah, leave it to me to do all that right.
All right, Adam. You want to start Q&A 3 minutes early? We've got a non-trivial amount of questions.
Oh, I found it. There it is.
Oh my gosh!
If you touch this volume, it sends you to the beginning. I did do it right. I just put it in the wrong spot.
It was just not where it was supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Question Q&A. Let's go.
All right. Let's go. Mod, there's a lot. I'm gonna let you approve. There's a million. Holy crap! There's a lot. Wow, you're a popular guy.
Oh, great.
All right. First question: can you make a skybox within an experience? So if you have a skybox for your proper game, right? Like you did. Imagine if you were creating like a simulation game within an experience. This is Day in My PC says that he's making a game and it has a tycoon game in a lab. So like, can you make another skybox within an existing skybox / experience?
I would imagine that maybe that there's a technical possibility there, but I don't have any familiarity with that flow myself.
Got it.
But we can ask around. We can take note of your username and send you a message when I get a better answer. But to my knowledge, the only way I know how to make skyboxes is either capturing a scene in Blender, or there might even be some plugins that you could use that would sort of arrange the camera and take some screenshots and export those perhaps in order to stitch those together and process them properly. But to my knowledge, I think skyboxes have to be made outside of the platform. But I would love to be corrected if I'm not right about that.
Amazing. Okay. So this one is I'm gonna combine a couple of y'all's. This is a thematic question about performance broadly. Lots of question about performance. We've talked a lot about modeling on a budget, creating on a budget, and broadly, it's does using terrain instead of parts for a large map impact game performance? That's part 1. And then part 2, it's a similar question to meshes and parts. How do you balance memory of both of them between meshes and unions? So it's all about managing memory and performance with visual fidelity.
Yeah, those are good questions. Those are issues that every developer is going to have to encounter at some point. Performance and memory optimization. Yes, terrain definitely has a cost associated with it, but I believe that our terrain materials are highly optimized, especially the grass material, because believe it or not, these grass blades, they obscure terrain pixels that are behind them, and you don't pay for those pixels.
Oh, nice.
So
It's free.
there's a really nice, yeah, the grass is actually
Free.
really cheap to render. And the bigger and taller your grass blades are, the cheaper that one becomes.
Forest levels everywhere.
Yeah, one of the things that you pay a lot of performance cost for on terrain is this kind of blending between materials. You see, we've got this really cool looking fall off of grass that's smattering on top of these bricks. I believe at runtime we generate a mask based off of the custom material that you provided. Probably comes from normal map information, I believe. Or one of our rendering engineers is probably listening to this and totally cringing at me.
No.
But it's procedurally generates a mask to help with specifically this kind of like fall off between two different materials, which is a costly operation at render time. So that's one thing that you do pay for extra when you use terrain that you wouldn't use on a part. But with parts, you can only get blending between two objects as detailed as this. No fall off between them. So it's sort of like, it's a little bit of a give and take. You can see it over here on this cobblestone as well.
Now this...
and if you paint down any two materials, you'll see that there's a fall off similar to that.
So would it...
So there is a... Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, no, go ahead. I was just going to ask, would it be too much of a simplifying statement to say that for terrain, just be mindful of how many times you transition between different terrain materials?
Yes, that would be at least somewhat fair to say. And I think that maybe even a higher level principle is less is more in all things game making. If you use less materials, it's cheaper. Just as simple as that. If you use less and smaller textures, it's cheaper. But sometimes, like, if the goal of your art direction is to have a look like this, it's a cost that you just simply have to pay and make cuts in other places.
Because it's worth it. Because it fits the vibe and direction you're going for.
Yeah, and there the follow-up part of that question. Dux, can you repeat that for me?
Yeah. The follow-up, it was talking about meshes versus unions.
Oh, yeah. So as far as I know, meshes can be cheap. They can be very expensive. No mesh can be more than 10,000 triangles. And this one, I don't think is even close to it. It's modeled pretty efficiently. Most of the detail is in this object here, which is mostly very simple cubes. Like, the geometry that we spent to build this mesh is almost nothing. But, we get to model in lots of great detail in between the boards and, oh, no, that's supposed to be metal. Don't look at that. But you see, this is also calling in just one surface appearance draw call.
Oh, interesting.
So although this is a fairly complex mesh, it's using one surface appearance, and it is one mesh. That's it. Compared to this, which if I were to
Mr. Part
select,
over here, the part.
Yeah, if we select all the
part friend.
Yeah, if we make up everything, let me just here. This will be color equals. So this will give us everything with that color. Suddenly,
oh my gosh! Scroll.
Yeah, here it was this one. Like,
jeez.
This already, that's 95 parts. I didn't get all of them. There's more. There's, probably another.
At least 96.
Yeah, at least 96. And if we just kind of select, let's see, select children. I have this mapped to Alt-C. And at least 59 plus 138. Yeah, so there's probably close to 200 parts that it took to build this, where it took me one mesh. So I can't speak definitively on this, but I think there's a performance gain in this case by using this mesh. But again, our rendering engineers would probably be like, no, parts are so efficient that it might be actually cheaper at runtime to use that. But it just depends on how many you have. If you've got a whole city of part-based homes, but that might be cheaper. But this particular house, let me see if I can just get, I think there's, there's 7 items that make up the house here. And we're calling in 1 surface appearance, and that's loaded into memory only one time, so you only pay for it once. And the rest is just built-in materials and overrides and things like that. Of course, the vegetation is a whole other package here. We have a bunch of meshes here that are
Got it.
made out of meshes as well. Here, let's take a look at wireframe. So you can see how this is constructed kind of just out of triangles.
Yeah. Hey, we got a popular question. It's got 4 thumbs up. It is a non-trivial question.
All right, let's go.
Still on the memory train. Top of mind. Is there a way to track memory usage while developing in Studio? And if so, if you could track memory usage while you're developing in Studio, what would the limits be for the different devices like PC, console, mobile, etc.? They're asking essentially what are some benchmarks or some guidelines to keep in mind for memory for devices?
That's something that, as the asker probably knows, every single device out there, and there are many devices, all have unique limits and capabilities, mobile devices especially. If you want to see your memory footprint inside Studio, I found that one of the best ways for me to get a sense of like the memory footprint of a place file is to go to the View tab and to the where are you hiding from me? Performance tab. Now this isn't super reliable. It's not going to give you a perfectly accurate understanding, but if you go under performance stats, memory, core memory, or sorry, not core memory, but place memory, this gives you sort of a sense of like everything that's loaded into the place. But I've noticed sometimes that this number is higher than it like as I start editing and doing work inside Studio. But if I close all instances of Studio out, all of them, and then reopen it, load a place file, and bring this performance tab up again and check place memory, it's usually a little lower. Because I think some things get pulled into the graphics texture budget just by doing edit operations of different sorts. So this, after a few hours of iteration, this isn't necessarily sort of like the baseline texture memory amount. I think that there's maybe some issues with this tool, and I think that they're known, and our engineers are on a constant mission to vigilantly knock these out and make our tools accurate and bug-free. But that's one of the things that I use is I close all my instances out, I load it back up, I look at place memory, and I take a look at my graphics textures, my script memory to see how much that's costing me, and just general place memory. As far as devices that are out there, I like to try to keep things under 750 megs to be safe. I think a lot of the most popular devices have somewhere around a gig of memory. But I think that there might be some under the hood stuff that our performance optimizations do at runtime, maybe on a per device or per account level, that can accommodate for some of that. But yeah, that's a big, hairy question that is probably better answered by a graphics engineer than myself. Granted, like I develop on inside of the company, and I make art projects. I don't actually build fully realized projects to ship them yet, just on occasion. But yeah, there's always the optimization stage, and what I do is we just get real devices in our hands and see if they run, because it's kind of a black box for me, and I don't have the brains to sort it all out.
Fair enough. All right, we got another one. This was, at what stage would you recommend creating scripts and programming behavior, or would you want to finish world building first? So like in this example, we came in knowing we wanted to do Frogger. We already had everything, kind of made and ready to go. And we just focused on set dressing and making things look pretty. Is that standard? Is there another flow? What do you recommend? What are your thoughts?
Well, I would say like the smaller your team is, the more you're going to have to do as an individual. Like if it's just you and one partner, and you're an artist, you're probably going to need to dig into scripting a little bit. Let's say your partner is a scripting kind of guru and they're maybe the game designer and you're just filling the role of the artist. It's something you'd have to negotiate with that other individual, of course, but I would recommend everybody at least give scripting a little bit of a try. it's still a big black box of mystery to me, and I'm learning more every day. But we've got the AI scripting assistant that we can use to help us write scripts. And actually, I used it to write all of the scripts that we saw today. This is my assistant right here, and I can ask him things like, "Hey, oh, my keyboard stopped working. That's very cool. Love when it does that on the live stream."
Odd.
Oh, wait, I have to accept. Yes, I accept. I said, "Hey, assistant, help me write a script that does X, Y, or Z," and press enter, and it starts thinking, and it's not going to understand that question, but you guys get a question. Hey, I said, how can I I need a script that makes my log reset after it runs into a part called reset, and it spit out a script that I just plugged in, and it worked. Granted, I did a few things to modify it after I sort of dug in and learned a little bit more about exactly what it was doing, because I wanted it to react to a resetter on the left and the right. And I just sort of had to like experiment and do a little trial and error until I could figure out how this stuff worked. And,
Yeah.
I've always been kind of allergic to scripting and programming in my career, but it feels good to overcome a fear, just try something. And this assistant really helps me solve problems. And again, the dev forum, another great place that I've asked questions, and some of my coworkers that can help me understand things. But I'd say the more the better. So, but if you're on a big team, on a bigger project, and you're the artist, you might not ever have to actually even worry about it. It could be in the realm of a designer or a programmer to handle this stuff. But I think that one of the beautiful things about the Roblox Studio platform is how versatile it is and how accessible it is, and how it's really built to try and make it easier for people of all different skill levels to learn how to do these things. And I would encourage everybody to give it a go and become a part of the community and ask questions and learn as much as you can, and just give it your best shot, because I think you'll surprise yourself with what you're capable of.
So I totally agree. So if you're assuming you're a solo dev, you don't have a team, you don't have somebody else who's going to handle the gameplay, programming, and scripting, would you say that it's largely a matter of personal preference when you decide to take off your art hat and put on your game design or your scripting hat, and there's not necessarily like a right time to do it, like before the polish or after the
right.
moccasin, or like the timing doesn't so much matter? Or is there an optimal time to kind of like switch hats?
It's really just sort of up to the needs of your project. I would say that there's always going to be a crucial time to do some scripting early on. Remember when we first started this map, it was in a very basic state, and we were just sort of trying to figure out where the fun was. And like when we're designing something very, very early on, it's always a great idea to do some gameplay design and scripting exercises to get some basic functionality in there, to get an early sense way in advance, like, is this fun? Is this compelling? Do I enjoy this? Even though there's no beauty to it yet, am I finding the fun? So I think that you always have to do at least a little bit early, just to set yourself up for greater success.
And I mean, that kind of fits into what you were saying. Oh, no, that fits what you were saying before, when you had the, start big and then you go smaller when you were blocking in things artistically. Like if you're making an experience, you're making a game, the highest level, like, is it fun to play?
Exactly.
You wouldn't want to make everything super gorgeous and pretty and then realize it's actually kind of boring, or, it wasn't the loop that you wanted, but you already spent all this time making it look gorgeous.
It's exactly right. And just like a moment ago when I said, no, you can make your log small, or you can make it big, or you can make it faster, you can make it slow. Like those are like iterations that you can do at another time down the road once you get sort of the fundamentals figured out. But yeah, I would always say, like, do some game design early, if you're able to, and find a little fun, and then iterate and refine it later. This tool is very forgiving at letting you sort of return back to do other things at other times. And we're always trying to make the tooling better to make that easier too.
All right. We got one more question, and it's a showboat. It's a technical demo. Can you show us, how did you make the leaf and flower textures transparent in Studio?
Yes. We even have some posts on our dev forum about how to get these in there. I don't have Substance Designer on this PC I'm on right now. But basically how this works is inside of a surface appearance. Let me close this assistant. I'm going to open this surface appearance. This is called Surface Appearance OBIVA. Cool name. I have it packaged. And basically inside of every surface appearance object, the first drop down here is called transparency. So let's actually just, let's open this one here. And if I set it to overlay, it does something different. It turns all those pixels white. Now that's because in the color map of the surface appearance, there's a mask in the alpha channel. So every texture has 3 channels in it, and that's where you get your color. It's a red channel, a green channel, and a blue channel. And those 3 colors combine together to give you pixels of all sorts of different colors. Like these grayish color is probably like, just a little bit of red, a little bit of blue, a little bit of green, all mixed together. Where these leaves are probably a lot of blue and a lot of some blue, a lot of green, and very little red. Basically it's just a 0 to 255 scale. That's not what you asked. You have red, green, and blue. Okay, those are your 3 color channels, and that's what basically determines the color of your pixels. But there's another channel in there too. It's called the alpha channel, and basically it's a black and white mask that can be any pixels you want. In this case, it's best visualized by you see where all the white pixels are here. Basically any pixel that is not colored. The mask is which you can't see in this view is all black in these areas, and then all white wherever there are leaves. And the system understands that either as an overlay, it sort of makes it so that you can tint the masked area. And you see how it doesn't affect these pixels at all? It's because it's using that same mask. But if I were to switch it back to transparency, then it says all of those masked pixels are just invisible pixels now, instead of tintable pixels. So you can choose one mode or the other here. But yeah, that mask that enables the surface appearance to do that exists on the color map. And it's something you can make in Photoshop, Substance Designer, various free painters, and so on. And yeah, we have dev forum posts about that in the experts corner.
There it is. Amazing. All right, we got a couple more. I said one more, but we just want to help, darn it. We just want to make cool stuff. Another question.
Fire away.
More on memory, man. That's a big theme today. To save on resources, is it not ideal to cull interior faces, such as how you have an interior for the building? Wouldn't it be ideal to remove those faces altogether?
Yes, it is. It is beneficial to remove interior faces. Some of them I have removed. For example, you see on the other side of this wall, there's no back faces there. This is one that could be removed, but you see other ones are gone. The back sides of the shutters are gone. The inside of this beam, I left there because I was copying this beam around over and over and over and rotating it in all sorts of different directions to give it a slightly different appearance on each face, so you didn't notice the repetition quite as much. And I never made it back to delete these faces because it was just, maybe a dozen or so faces on the inside, and I just decided
Adam.
we could afford it. But no, that is the
so
right
much
question.
for building
It's
on a
absolutely the
budget,
right
and you're
question.
like, nah, I
Yeah.
could splurge on some interior faces. It's cool.
I do what I can to get rid of some interiors. This roof was double-sided, right? But I left it in there because I had faces that span on a visible section down here.
Mm-hmm.
But this is simply faces that connect this vertex with this vertex over here. And I just left that one in. That could have probably gone too. But yeah, absolutely. Back faces that are never seen by the user, get rid of them. It's smart to get rid of them. But you can afford a few. It's not a life or death decision, but it's always a good idea to be as efficient as you can be for both memory, because every extra polygon does cost more memory, but it also costs more runtime performance. It costs frames per second to put that, because even though I can't see those faces, they're still being drawn by the renderer. So yeah, absolutely. Bad discipline on my part. Bad
Great
artist.
Question, though. Oh, stop it. You're clearly great. This is...
Bad artist.
Adam,
Bad
this
artist.
was... Stop it. Healthy mindset, healthy developers. All right, Adam, this was great. Thanks so much. Chat, thanks for watching. With Mod, there's a link. I want you to spam it. Spam the link. This is going to link to our YouTube channel. So the VOD of this will be visible there. A couple of you have asked, like, I missed a bit, or I want to rewatch this, or, you know, can I go through it on my own time? It's like, you totally can. This will be reposted as a VOD, and all this content will be there on the YouTube channel that is linked right now. Bookmark that. We have some other tutorials and resources there, and all of the videos that are there link back to the dev forum and to other tutorials that we have that Roblox has made for you to help make the things you see in your head. Yes, there will be other streams. Thanks for coming into this first one with Adam and world building. Really excited to keep doing these, and really excited at the turnout and just the engagement. And we hope that this has been really, really helpful to you. Adam, do you have anything you wanna sign off with? Anything you want to plug?
Check out the dev forum, read all the experts articles that we're putting out. If you have modeling questions, post on there. Please take a look at the learning to model in Blender. More in that series are on the way. We're going to talk about how to make trim sheets and unwrap to trim sheets and model to those. So everything that you saw here today, we're going to go into great detail and write a lot of tutorials and articles on how it's done. And of course, if you have questions, ask them there. I can engage with you on that forum. You'll either see me as SCHLEEMPH or Adam W3D.
All right, and I'm Duck Yellow. I do videos at Roblox. This was great. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll catch you on the next stream. Keep an eye on the dev forum for when that's going to be. Bye.
Bye.